Welcome, everyone. Thank you for taking the time today to join us for our third episode of STEM and STEAM activities at home or in the classroom. Make sure to share this with your colleagues and others, because we're going to continue to do some great interactive hands-on activities that can be easily integrated in your curriculum and engage your students as well.
My name is Josh, and over here to my right, off to the side in our hallway today for live streaming is Pete. Hey, Pete. Hello. Pete's monitoring all the computer stuff. So you're here today with Nasco Education. Oh, there we go. See, everything's off for me. Ah, there we go. Yay, Nasco Education. And thank you for watching these live streams. It's the third one we've done with Nasco. We have another one next week as well. We'll be doing Halloween activities, which is a good time to do Halloween activities. We're in October. And so if you have any questions about any of this stuff, please talk to Jordan. He's here in the live stream, or give Nasco a call. If you want to try out some other fun hands-on STEM activities, check out the free supplemental STEM curriculum at Pete, I think you have a link to that, don't you?
Is it Nasco Educate?
There you go, Nasco Educate. There we go. There's also a STEM grant program that Nasco has as well. /STEM-grant-program. I think we have some overlays. There we go. Our office is under construction right now, so our studio is shut down. So we're literally live streaming in our hallway today as opposed to our usual studio. So little things, a little hickly-pickly, but it works well. But all the resources you see here today on screen, all the kits and supplies can be gotten through Nasco. Jordan can help you out with any questions you might have about those kits. There's Nasco Educate and Nasco Education. Those are some fun links. I'm sure Jordan will have all those for people available. You also email engage@nascoeducation.com. So there we go. So today we're going to talk about advanced paper circuits. Last week we did basic paper circuit stuff, showing off some different fun and unique ways to do paper circuitry projects, especially with our really awesome maker tape, which is our nylon conductive tape, as well as that copper foil stuff. This is just much stronger physically. It's conductive on top and bottom. And it's much easier to use for paper circuits projects, or doing circuitry projects on shirts, on glass windows like behind me, on walls. We have a bunch actually on the wall over here to the right for a big wall project we made a while back. But this stuff basically fixes any problem you might have with conductive tape, especially in classroom use with younger kids, because they cannot rip this by hand. They have to cut it with a pair of scissors. So actually gives a lot of flexibility in making bigger, better, more complicated things, but still on paper. And the key aspect to paper circuits, why it's so much fun, is that it's paper crafts. By the time a kid's in 4th or 5th grade, they have done so many paper crafts at home and school. It's second nature to them. It's a non-threatening environment. All we're doing is adding tape and some LEDs and a battery, some, again, very common things for the kids, to paper to make circuits. It's just a very fun and just easy way to engage the kids, and especially the arts and crafts STEM activities like Halloween coming up next week. But last week we showed us some basic stuff, which is pretty common. There's tons of paper circuits resources both on NASCO's website, and I'm sure you've probably seen stuff before as well. But we're going to talk about advanced paper circuits. That would be things for that middle school, high school route, for an after-school science program, or those more inquisitive higher-end students you might have who whiz through your projects. And these would be interactive projects using more standard components: transistors, resistors, light detecting resistors, and even just making much more complicated shapes and features. One of the more common pieces we like to use is a self-sticking vibrating motor found in the Origami Circuits kit on NASCO's website. That's a good way to make moving paper craft projects for students. But we're gonna switch to the overhead, and we're gonna show off these other new and unique things to show off. So first and foremost is a project we're not gonna make today because it's a lot of work to make one. And we're gonna try to do a couple things here in a half an hour. But we can actually make a pretty decent working little speaker using our nylon conductive maker tape, some paper, and a magnet. And really, a speaker is nothing but a piece of cardboard with a little magnet on there that you run electricity through. Speakers are really simple technology, but we can make our own quite simply by using a template like this and using different types of paper material. Now, Pete is going to run a video so we actually can see and hear how these kind of paper circuits DIY speakers actually look and sound in real life. So this is a video we took of the finished ones that we've done and how they sound. So Pete, go ahead.
Roll it.
Hey, Josh, I don't think we can hear the volume, but we can definitely see the video for this.
Jordan says the sound's not coming through. It could be an issue with our software going back and forth. Well, sorry about that, folks. but you can see what they look like finished, and that's using a variety of materials. But you can actually hear a pretty audible sound from them. Pete, thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. It's just the software we're going through, and then Nasco streaming software. Sometimes sound effects don't always go through properly. Sorry about that, folks. But the sound can actually be heard quite well around the speaker. We used a couple different types of material. We used like heavy cardstock for one. We used transparency paper for another because it looked nice and it's a nice thin membrane of plastic. We also used a paper plate because we had them around, and they all sound decent. Now we also need to add in a couple different other electronic components. We used an old iPod to plug into a old Sony speaker system, an amplifier, no, a receiver, stereo receiver amplifier. I'm pretty sure Andy, our curriculum writer, got it for about $5 from Goodwill. It's definitely not a, and I can hear Andy's in the room. He's like, he paid good money, $5 to $10 probably. But you could go to Goodwill and pick up a stereo, like a system like that. And all we're doing is running from the speaker outputs to the setup on here with maker tape. And then we just had a little stack of like rare earth magnets underneath. And one of the things you can do, variables, which are actually in our direction setups that we have, there's a whole lesson plan and directions for this, where you can try different types of magnets and different quantities of magnets with the different types of materials. Because we found out, like any good speaker, the material makes a lot of difference. And you can try different patterns as well. See, does that make a difference in the sound effect? Now, this is something you really couldn't do with copper foil, not anywhere near easily enough for classroom use, but it just takes a lot of just folding strips of maker tape around in a circle or cutting strips, and it works quite well. And that's a nice, easy way to show a piece of technology kids don't typically think about, how easy they are on the inside, because speakers are such an easy piece of technology. They really are. A speaker from like 1920s, like 100 years ago, is fundamentally identical to a speaker today, just we're using much better materials and build quality to get a better sound from it. But this is just a really simple project, and a nice thing that your higher end students, your more gifted students, the whizzes in your classroom might be able to do in that spare time end of a lesson. And it's paper. It's paper in a $5 stereo system that you can plug an iPod into or a phone, and it's fun. The only downside is we found that you have to crank up that speaker system a lot, like really all the way to the max to really shove power through there, way more than anybody would reasonably want to do. And just be careful, because that maker tape does get a little bit warm. Not like burning, I'm gonna start a fire warm, just it gets like, you can definitely feel like that's warmer than I really want to just physically touch most of the time because of all the current running through there. But that's not a big issue because it's paper. You're good. So that's paper speakers. That's a really fun activity if you want to show off some of that technology behind the technology kind of aspect. And these templates and directions you can find on the Nasco Education website, where there's a link somewhere. There you go, Pete. Thanks, Pete. And you can do that. But we definitely have lesson plans and activities and directions for this. Oh, I'm backwards. There we go. For these as well. We always want to make sure we have those resources available for that. And definitely recommend that activity. So I'm going to put this off to the side. We're going to actually move on to one of our paper circuits projects going to make today. So we have two things we're going to show off today. We've got a basic dark detecting circuit and a touch activated circuit. Now these are both simple circuits that use transistors. Now, transistors being the magic that they are behind all of our technology. You probably have a few thousand of them in your pocket right now in the form of a cell phone. But they're great, and they're actually very easy to make into projects, because transistors and resistors, things that here, are very inexpensive to give to students. And these are both very interactive circuits as well. So we're gonna first start with the dark detecting circuit, because that's the more interesting one. So we've run out of time. I wanna make sure we finish this and we go over this. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit on this camera up above. Apologies. There we go. Let's see if we can focus this too. There we go. Interesting day in the hallway. So this circuit uses a transistor, an LED, a resistor, and some maker tape and a battery. And that's all there is. And this is basically, I describe this to students and to teachers, I call this the outdoor garden light circuit, because the same basic type of circuit is found in every outdoor little dollar store garden light, up to the nice big ones people might have. It's a very simple circuit, and transistors in this situation are acting as a gateway. So along with the light detecting resistor. So the light detecting resistors are kind of fun little pieces of technology. In sunlight, they have zero resistance. So under bright light, they act just like a wire. Power can flow through them without any issue. As they get darker and darker, the resistance goes up. So that means under darkness, this has infinite resistance. Power cannot flow through there. And it's just Very simple. Now the transistor hooked up to this circuit, the way you have it hooked up is typically power will flow through here when there's sunlight. When it's dark, power switches can't come through here and it'll switch over to the LED, acting as a little gateway, a little back and forth. Very simple, very easy for kids to understand the basic movement of things. Sorry, allergies are killing me. Well, it's one of those days, isn't it? But this is a very simple circuit that is more complicated and more adult. Now, usually in a classroom, middle school or high school, you would typically do this with a breadboard and little jumper wires, but I find that to be very difficult and confusing. And this is a much more easy visual format and very much like a circuit diagram you might see in a workbook or activity page or on a website, because this circuit diagram, from here to circuit diagram, are very easy to look back and forth to see the similarities, how they're laid out. So ragweed season. So I'm gonna make this little guy up because he's not tough at all to make. We just have to put parts down the right spot and make sure we have the positives and negatives lined up properly. Again, if you have any questions, please throw a message out so Jordan can say, hey, this person has a cool message. So I'm gonna do this. So first and foremost, I'm gonna take my LED and I'm going to identify my positive and negative leg, positive being the long leg. In fact, it actually says it right here, long leg positive. I'm gonna put that little guy out and I'm gonna put a little L on the end because I always get these two. I always forget which one is my long leg. And do this. There we go, that part's been prepared, yay. My light detecting resistor, I just need to take here and bend its little legs out. There's no positive negative on this guy. There we go. I can take my transistor here and I can bend its legs out. I want to bend one left, one right, and the middle one backwards. Each one does a separate thing in a circuit. And then I have one last piece. I have my resistor right here, which is a 1,000 ohm resistor. I can tell that because I picked out of the bag that said 1,000 ohms. There's little tiny bands on these resistors that color coordinated bands that should tell you what they are. They're very small and hard to tell apart. And if you're colorblind like myself, impossible to tell what they are. Even people with good eyesight have a hard time telling them. So if you have a multimeter around and tons of resistors, use the multimeter. So we're just gonna bend their little legs out with this guy too, a little bit here so we can just kind of get a little zigzag motion. So this is me laying down all my parts on this project, ta-da, on the page. As a teacher, if you want to walk by and say, hey, Bill or Susan or Cynthia, let's check out your stuff. Is it in good working order before we get started? Well, you can tell right here because all the parts are laid out correctly. I just have to add maker tape. Our maker tape is conductive on top and bottom, which makes it very easy to apply to this project. So I'm just going to cut some tape here, talk about the coolness that is maker tape. I'm using way too much of it too, so because we have a lot around these days. So I'm gonna lay this down here in the middle of my spot. I'm gonna come over. See, this is why I like using heavy cardstock paper. It doesn't fold up like this. I highly recommend if you do these projects with kids, you use a heavier cardstock. Because we're under construction, our big printer is offline today. We realized that about 10 minutes beforehand, they had disconnected it. The power running to it. So we had to use our regular printers, which can't handle cardstock paper. It's just one of those days. There we go. So I'm just gonna stop right here. I'm gonna use smaller strips today. I'm just gonna run it over this resistor leg right here. So I just have a little contact. It is conductive on top and bottom, so life is good for those guys. And then I'm just going to measure out a little bit here and go that route. I usually like doing right angle folds on all mine because our maker tape can handle a right angle fold. But if you just want to layer maker tape on top of each other, as long as there's an overlap, you'll have a strong electrical connection. I'm going to do because we don't have a printer, our big industrial printer. Oh, construction. We're just like, it's going to be an easy week of construction. No. So we always make sure all of these directions and lessons that we have, there's good teacher lessons, there's a good student activity page that goes with it, and there's just extra information galore for our users, because as a teacher and you're facilitating this, we want to make sure that you don't have any issues, that you can run this with fairly easy time. Because I know sometimes this stuff can get quite annoying to facilitate as an educator, especially if this is not in your typical wheelhouse of knowledge. But so we try to make sure everything is very well laid out for the students, because we figure if the teacher doesn't have any background knowledge on this type of material, the students should be able to do it entirely on their own without any educator oversight. So where's my dark detecting resistor? There we go. We're just going to come down and over, and I need to connect these two guys over here. Just do a little right angle fold. There you go. Ta-da. How does that look, Pete?
Amazing.
Pete is amazed. You can just tell he's over there just like, wow. Wow, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pete. Your confidence
Thank you.
fills me with joy. So just gonna add a couple more pieces of tape here and we're literally done. So I did that backwards too, didn't I? Yeah, I did that backwards. Yeah, I should pay more attention to my own stuff. I'll fix that. That's easy. Most things paper circuits are pretty easy to fix, and which is good because I typically screw up during a live stream at least once. There we go over this. See, I was supposed to put down negative with battery on top, wasn't I, Pete? Yeah, Pete's just like, of course you were, Josh. And luckily I can just do this.
There we go.
I can make her tape. Oh, you're hard to rip off. That's why you don't accept any substitutions. Haha, puns. There you go. Again, why working with cardstock is a lot better because you have a little more leeway with this, or do this on a piece of cardboard or on a table.
Yeah.
I've done that for live streams before. So now we're just going to use this piece of tape I have left over here to connect from top to bottom along here. Ta-da, there we go. Now things are better. Great. For this guy, we're going to use a little thing I like to call Mr. Tape Loop. Maker tape being conductive on top and bottom and being super strong. There we go, Mr. Tape Loop. Gives us a few advantages over, say, copper foil. We can do a tape loop on top of our tape, then put the battery on top of that, and we make a solid connection. Let's just make a battery holder out of thin air, whether it's on a shirt or a wall or a paper project like this. Works quite well. So we're just gonna do a little tape loop here. Again, something if you're a 5th or 6th grader, especially middle school on up, this is easy. You've done tape loops before. Ta-da, tape loop down, battery on top. Now, since I screwed up here, you have to run a little piece of maker tape from here over the top of our battery. Ta-da, maker tape, trademarked. We own 2 trademarks. One is maker tape. Good times. Now we actually use maker tape as well. We have a thinner version, 1/8 inch. This is 1/4 inch in width, 6 millimeter if you want to go metric. The 1/8 inch, 3 millimeter version we actually use on Lego for some of our other products because it works really, really well on that as a building environment. There we go. Now, am I too dark in here?
Flashlight.
Yeah. No, it's good because it should, it's backwards. It's too funky in here. So if we are in the sunlight, which would be the way to use it, our studio lights aren't really kicking it for it, this would turn off and put your hand over it, turns on. And it should be working that way. Let's see here, 1,000 ohm resistor. Now we're good. I think it's because our studio lights act a bit differently than regular sunlight. It's a different wavelength. But there you go. It should be a dark detecting circuit, but it definitely works quite well with the transistor on there. Of course, something weird happens with the studio lights being weird. But that's what it does, a basic dark detecting circuit, the kind of circuit you'd find in an outdoor garden light. Just double check here. Yeah, oh. No. No, so good stuff. All right, people coming to our door. So that's a dark detecting circuit. So yeah, using a transistor is pretty fun for this kind of stuff. And this kind of circuit, again, didn't take us very long to make. Kids can do all the work themselves. And yeah, you're good. So put that to the side. We're gonna do one more project, which is pretty similar to this one. Thanks, Nasco Education. Thanks, Pete. Pete's just like, I gotta press some buttons. This is a touch activated switch. Actually, there's a chance I used the wrong resistor because I had marked one. I might have just marked the wrong one.
I can check one.
Want to check which one this is, Pete?
Yeah, let me check out.
Check on the multimeter.
Yeah.
we have multimeters all over the place because of this. So this is the same kind of project, transistor, resistor, LED. Now this is a situation where if you touch one point on the transistor, that changes the switch. Your body activates as a large, well, shunt for power. And when you touch this little emitter spot here, the LED turns on. So it's a touch activated, capacitive touch based. Very simple, but also very similar to the way a cell phone works or anything with a touch screen on it, to be honest. So it's a nice way of showing, yeah, this is basically the basic touch screen situation. Is that the right 4700?
4.7, yeah.
Okay, this is the right one. Okay, I
Yep.
grabbed one of each. All right, great. I can't tell, I'm colorblind. And those things are just impossible to tell anyway. I don't know how people can do it.
I always confirm with a meter.
Yeah, always confirm with the meter, never guess.
Yeah.
So I have like bags labeled from like 10 years ago. Just what is it? It's labeled on the bag.
Yeah.
Same thing here. We got our positive negative leg on our resistor. Our LED. Got our transistor all labeled out. Got my 4700 ohm negative short leg. These are big, by the way. These are gumdrop sized LEDs, what people call them. Their official name is a 10 millimeter. It's the diameter of them. We actually have built-in resistors on them as well for doing lots of paper circuits things. In this situation, it doesn't matter for what we're doing, but in more papercraft activities with multiple LEDs, it does make quite the difference having a resistor built in. It also makes it easier when you don't want to have the kids have to wire their own in. That's way too much work. So. Oh, you know why? Because we printed this on the Cruddy printer. I did have it right. That's why my battery literally is backwards compared to what it should be. That's why thing's not working. It's using the wrong printer. C'est la vie, if I was a French teacher.
Yep.
So anyway, I was right the first time. All right, so we got 5 minutes here. So we're gonna do this. If you have questions, now's the time to ask. Important questions like, Josh, what's with that window behind you? Or how did Pete grow such a great beard, which you can't see on screen? It took him years of growing that beard, from his humble days on the punk scenes of Milwaukee, punk music scene, to the amazing days he spends making cool things here at Brown Dog Gadgets. So we're just gonna tape down these parts really quickly because they're not that difficult compared to the last one. So I gotta make sure you check where your battery goes. Silly Josh. See, I was right. And there's enough live streaming to do this in my sleep now, I guess. I'm gonna do a right angle turn here just for the fun of it. And you're probably wondering, hey Josh, it's a fabric tape. What other cool fabric things can I do with it? Well, you can put this on clothing. If you want to make a cool wearable circuit, you can totally use maker tape for that. We actually tried doing that with a lot of scout groups because you can just add this to, say, felt or a t-shirt. Wow, that's way too long. Who cares? But it works really, really, really well on fabric to make simple circuits without having to do conductive sewing, which conductive sewing can be fun. I mean, it's if you have sewing skills, it's just that conductive sewing takes sewing skills, which most 4th and 5th graders don't tend to have these days, or most adults I've worked with during events where they say they're good, but they're not. So doing, say, maker tape instead with paper circuits materials on a shirt is a much faster way of doing things, but still has a similar outcome. I have a toddler at home, so my brain is a little running on empty today. Toddlers. There we go. But that's a good way of doing things with the maker tape. And we actually, if you want to have advanced paper circuits on our wall over here, it's a bunch of maker tape hooked up to one of our programmable boards. So we want to use a microbit or an Arduino style board or other microcontroller. You can totally use that with maker tape because it conducts quite well and it's fairly strong. So we have a bunch of it on our wall here. We have an interactive touch wall. You touch a graphic on the wall and it plays a sound effect, which is currently, I think we have a bunch of guitar cutouts and a keytar, a saxophone, and a drum set. They each play like their own fun riff when you touch them. There you go. Should not have cut my nails. Rookie mistake, cutting nails before a live stream. Right angle turn, up and over. Press down. I do my legs backwards.
To press ground as well with the other hand.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. I have to hold. That's actually it probably says on here too. So yeah, if you hold your positive up here and touch it, it's kind of hard to see in camera. Kind of see it there. It is turning on when you touch this spot. If I'm not mistaken, it's been a while, but if I want to, I think I can break out that leg over here too. Just put some maker tape over it so I can touch here, and yeah, there you go. I can break it out. So like, why is it turning on? Magic, I'm conductive. There you go, capacitive touch. So advanced paper circuits, we have several different ones. We also have another one very similar to, again, this setup with a transistor, which we're not going to do today because it's a lot of extra work and involves water, but it's a moisture sensing device. It's basically very similar to this right here, where the water creates a connection, activates the transistor, and turns the LED on when there's significant moisture involved. I kind of sometimes refer to it as the shall I water my plant circuit. If the light turns on, I should say when the light turns off, you have to water your plant because it's a moisture sensor. When the light turns off, you're like, oh no, plant, you don't have enough moisture. I should water you, my poor fern. If you're a fern person or a Japanese peace lily kind of person, those are always nice.
Wow.
I know, it's one of 3 plants I know. The other is lettuce. And it's a Wednesday. But anyway, these are advanced circuits, paper circuits activities. Again, they're a little more engaging for that middle school, high school crowd, or the more advanced students in your classroom. They're not difficult. They're extremely still very inexpensive. We have these nice templates all laid out, which explains how this works. It's also a teacher page as well to go with this, how to implement this. But it's kind of circuit you can have the kids make, show off, and take home and like, look, mom and dad, I can explain what a transistor does at a base level, because transistors are one of those things no one ever explains well. It's like transistors, they're kind of like magic. They're like, no, they're not. It's a gigantic effort to make these. If you ever want to look at fun history, look at the history of how a transistor came to be. It's pretty crazy with Bell Labs, but they're really awesome. They're basically the cornerstone of all of our modern technology, and they're so infinitesimally like nanometers small now on your silicon computer chips. But at the base level, this is what they are, a little guy like that now. But Nasco has these in a couple kits that we put together for them. Make sure I say the right kit here. It's the NE30040, which is the individual student large circuitry kit. Ask Jordan for that one. That is a $30 bag of materials, includes the advanced paper circuits as well as a bunch more basic paper circuits, as well as BristleBots, a solar bug, and light up name badge activities, all those things with lessons. Basically 3 weeks plus worth of daily lessons for students to do, each about a half an hour to 45 minutes in time. So those are out there. Those are definitely highly recommended. Oh yes, to order, call 1-800-558-9595. Talk to Jordan. He'll get you hooked up with all the fun STEM things. Gotta break out the NPR voice. But no, these are fun things. There's definitely, NASCO has all these directions and resources for these activities. If you have your own materials on hand, make sure you at least get maker tape from NASCO, because this really is the cornerstone to doing these advanced paper circuits things. You cannot do this with copper foil. So definitely go grab some of that 1/4-inch maker tape. NASCO has 20-meter rolls. Thanks for the graphic there, Pete. They're 20-meter rolls that are 1/4-inch by, what's that, 65 feet, basically 65 feet-ish in imperial. We buy things in metric, sell them in imperial. But you didn't need very much tape to make one of these projects, and so 65 feet would do quite a few of these in a classroom. I think we use maybe a foot of tape or so on here. Usually say most you need is about 2 feet of tape per activity at most. That way you always have extra. But definitely talk to Jordan. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have any questions, please ask him to ask us. If there come up questions later, we're happy to answer them. But thank you very much, Pete. Are we actually at our 2:30 time spot?
3:32.
Well, we're exactly.
Yes.
Wow, thanks, Jordan. Jordan, you have some other comments to say, Jordan? I'm sure you do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. And thank you, Josh, for presenting. Again, my name is Jordan Nelson. I'm one of the customer engagement managers with NASCO. I was your host today, and I wanted to give a shout out to all you educators out there who are still making it happen for students. You're awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. If you do have questions, like Josh was saying, you can ask them at this time. You're always willing to answer them, or if you have any other inquiries about how you would use this in the classroom, etc. This is why we do these live events for you. Remember that these are intended to be easy to learn, engaging STEM activities that you can integrate and supplement your curriculum at home or even at school. Do we have any questions currently? Let me see. I do not, but my last point, if you are anxious to connect with NASCO outside of this webinar event, you want to learn more information maybe about a grant program or anything else, feel free to reach out to us at engage@nascoeducation.com. And then also to remember to fill out that survey if you have opportunity to do that. If you're wanting for us to focus on a specific area or topic or other different engaging activities, always willing to learn or get some feedback from you. So again, I'll enter my email address in there as well if you have any other additional questions. Always willing to help out where I can. Or if you forget the handouts are in there. I did add those advanced paper circuits activities there. So if you're looking for some of these templates to do and you have these kits or some of the supplies available, you can do those as well. So, all right, that's all we got. I don't think I see any questions, Josh. So great job. Thank you so much, Pete,
Thanks.
for being in the background.
And people, last thing too, like we're always creating more resources. So if you want to, have some questions or other activities that you want to see us make, talk to Jordan. Like he passes along requests all the time to us, as well as we get phone calls from people asking for requests, and we're happy to actually make stuff up for teachers if it's within our wheelhouse. We can do that with our materials, and we're always, again, give us a good idea to do something and we'll put together a lesson for it. We're always happy to get suggestions from teachers because they always come up with like, wow, we never thought of doing that, sure, kind of stuff. So always happy to make something new if there's something specific you need for classroom use and that we can actually do for them. So let us know. Tell Jordan to get us to work.
All right. Thanks so much, Josh. And thank you all again for attending. Stay tuned for next week. Like I said, we're going to be doing some cool Halloween activities. It's going to be a lot of fun. I know Josh is super excited about it. I know I'm getting pumped up about October. I got my costume almost picked out. So
Jordan, I already have a pumpkin
fun
for next week's live stream. Like we already bought a pumpkin to do for a project next week just for NASCO. So
awesome. It's super exciting.
But all right, thanks Jordan. Thanks everybody.
All right, thanks everyone. You guys have a great one and join us next week for another awesome presentation. Take care.